The stellar dawn drifted through the vastness of space, flanked by an eclectic assortment of ships from the newly formed resistance. The alliance was fragile, held together by shared desperation rather than trust. Yet, for the first time since the Vraath's attack, Alya felt a flicker of hope. They weren't alone anymore. But with that hope came the growing weight of the artifact's influence on her mind, always there, always pulsing. Alya stood at the viewport in her quarters, staring out at the distant stars. In the silence, she could hear it, the soft hum of the artifact, like a whisper in the back of her mind. It wasn't speaking in words, but in emotions, in thoughts. It was trying to guide her, to show her something. But what? The door slid open behind her, and Mira entered, her face lined with concern. "Captain," she said softly, "we're getting some strange readings from the artifact again. It's broadcasting something." Alya turned to face her, her brow furrowed. "Broadcasting? To where?" "We're not sure," Mira replied, shaking her head. "The signal is unlike anything we've seen. It's not directed toward any known system. It's almost as if it's reaching beyond the galaxy." Alya's stomach churned. The artifact had been growing stronger ever since she had activated it during the battle with the Vraath. She had felt its power coursing through her, shaping her thoughts, her actions, but she hadn't realized it was broadcasting to anyone or anything beyond their reach. "Is there any way to shut it off?" Alya asked, though she knew the answer before Mira even shook her head. "No," Mira said. "It's acting on its own now. Whatever it's trying to communicate, we're not in control of it anymore." Alya exhaled slowly, her mind racing. She could feel the artifact's presence growing stronger every day, and the more she tried to resist it, the more it pushed back. It wasn't just an ancient relic, it was alive, and it was searching for something. "Keep monitoring the signal," Alya ordered, "and let me know the moment there's any change." Mira nodded, but Alya could see the fear in her eyes. The artifact had saved them once, but its power was still a mystery, and that made it dangerous. As Mira left the room, Alya returned to the viewport, her thoughts swirling. The artifact's whisper was growing louder now, its presence a constant shadow in her mind. It wanted her to do something, but she couldn't quite grasp what it was trying to say. She was still staring out at the stars when a soft chime echoed through her quarters. "Captain," Thane's voice came through the intercom, "we're receiving a transmission. It's from a Siloran vessel. They say it's urgent." Alya's heart skipped a beat. The Silor were an enigmatic species, known for their neutrality in galactic affairs. They rarely involved themselves in the conflicts of others. If they were reaching out now, it meant something significant was happening. "I'll be there in a moment," Alya replied, her mind racing as she left her quarters and headed for the command center. When Alya stepped onto the bridge, the holographic image of a Siloran emissary flickered into view. The Silor were a slender, pale-skinned species with elongated, almost graceful features. The emissary's silver eyes glimmered with an otherworldly light as it regarded Alya. "Captain Alya Trent of the human vessel Stellar Dawn," the Siloran emissary said in a calm, melodic voice. "I am Talon, a representative of the Selor. We bring a message of grave importance." Alya exchanged a glance with Thane before stepping closer to the hollow communicator. "What message?" "The artifact you possess," Talon said, his silver eyes narrowing slightly. "It has awakened forces that were meant to remain dormant." Alya's pulse quickened. "You know about the artifact?" Talon nodded. "We know of it, yes. It is an ancient creation, crafted by a species long before either of our civilizations came into existence. We believed it to be lost, until now." Alya frowned, her mind racing. "What is it? What does it want?" The Siloran emissary hesitated for a moment before speaking. "The artifact is not a mere tool or weapon, as you might think. It is a conduit, a bridge between sentient beings and a higher form of consciousness. It has the power to elevate those who wield it, but it also has the power to destroy." Alya's breath caught in her throat. She had suspected the artifact was more than a relic, but to hear the Silor confirm it sent a chill down her spine. "Why does it feel like it's communicating with me?" Alya asked quietly. "Because it is," Talon replied. "The artifact is sentient in its own way. It seeks out those with the potential to wield its power, and once it has bonded with a host, it will guide them. But it is not without its dangers. The artifact can enhance your abilities, yes, but it can also overwhelm you. If you are not careful, it will consume you. Alya felt a knot form in her stomach. The artifact's presence had been growing stronger ever since she had activated it during the battle with the Vraath. She could feel its influence creeping into her thoughts, pushing her towards something unknown. "What does it want from me?" Alya asked, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. Talon's expression softened. "It wants what it has always wanted, to evolve." The artifact was designed to unlock the full potential of sentient beings, to allow them to ascend to a higher state of existence. But that path is fraught with peril. Many who have sought to wield its power have failed, consumed by their own hubris. Alya clenched her fists. "Then why bond with me? What makes me different?" "We do not know," Talon admitted. "The artifact chooses its host for reasons that are beyond our understanding. But know this, Captain Trent, there are others who seek its power, forces far more dangerous than the Vraath. The artifact's signal has been broadcast across the galaxy, and it has not gone unnoticed." Alya's blood ran cold. "Who's coming for it?" "There are ancient entities," Talon said, his voice lowering. "Beings who once wielded the artifact's power millennia ago. They were cast down when the artifact was lost, but now that it has been found, they will come. And they will stop at nothing to claim it." The air seemed to thicken around Alya as the weight of Talon's words settled over her. The Vraath had been bad enough, but now she was facing a far greater threat, one that had been dormant for millennia, waiting for the artifact to resurface. "What do we do?" Alya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Talon's silver eyes shimmered with a strange, unrateable emotion. "You must prepare. The artifact has bonded with you, Captain Trent. You are now its guardian. But the path ahead is dangerous. You must learn to control the artifact's power, or it will destroy you." Alya's mind raced as the implications of Talon's warning sank in. The artifact wasn't just a key to humanity's survival. It was a beacon, drawing the attention of forces far more powerful than anything she had ever encountered. "Will you help us?" Alya asked, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her. Talon hesitated, then nodded slowly. "The Silor will aid you in whatever way we can. But know this, the artifact's power is not to be taken lightly. Many have tried to wield it, and many have fallen." Alya nodded, her resolve hardening. She didn't have a choice. She had already bonded with the artifact, and now she had to figure out how to use its power before those who sought it could destroy everything. After the transmission ended, Alya stood in the dimly lit command center, her thoughts racing. The artifact's influence was growing, not just within her, but across the galaxy. It had awakened something ancient and powerful. And whatever it was coming. Thane approached her, his face lined with concern. "Captain, are you all right?" Alya shook her head slowly. "No, but I don't think I'll ever be again." She looked out at the stars, the weight of the galaxy's fate pressing down on her shoulders. The artifact had chosen her. And now, it was up to her to stop what was coming. But deep down, Alya knew that whatever lay ahead, it was far beyond anything she or humanity had ever faced. The stellar dawn sliced through the emptiness of space, a small point of light in the vastness of the cosmos. But in its wake, a storm was gathering. Alya Trent stood on the bridge, hands resting on the command console as she stared out at the stars. The weight of the artifact pressed down on her, its pulsing hum echoing in the back of her mind, constant and insistent. The Silor's warning haunted her. Ancient forces were awakening, drawn to the artifact's signal. She had felt it growing stronger every day, the sense that someone was coming for it. And it wasn't just the Vraath. "Captain, we've received a reply from Governor Ryloth," Thane said, breaking the heavy silence. He stood at his station, his face grim. "He's gathered a coalition of forces, free traders, rebel colonies, mercenary fleets. They're ready to fight." "But," Alya turned to him. "But," Thane hesitated, his jaw tightening. "There's unrest. The alliances are shaky at best. Some of the mercenaries only care about profit, and the rebel colonies don't trust each other. Ryloth is doing what he can to hold them together, but without strong leadership, they're likely to fall apart before the battle even begins." Alya nodded slowly, her gaze drifting back to the stars. She had expected this. The alliance was born out of desperation, not unity. They all had their own reasons for fighting the Vraath. But that didn't mean they trusted each other. It was only a matter of time before their differences tore them apart. "What about Earth's forces?" Alya asked, her voice low. "Earth's defense fleet is still recovering from the Vraath attack," Thane replied. "They've sent what ships they can spare, but they're spread thin. If the Vraath return in full force—" Alya didn't need him to finish the sentence. Earth's defenses were barely holding together as it was. If the Vraath attacked again, they might not survive the second wave. And that was assuming the Vraath were the only threat they faced. The artifact pulsed in her mind, its presence growing stronger. She could feel it now, like a living thing, whispering to her, pushing her toward something unknown. It wanted to be used. It wanted to be wielded. But every time she reached for its power, she felt the pull of something darker, something that threatened to consume her. "We need to stabilize the alliance," Alya said, breaking the silence. "If we go into battle divided, we're dead. Ryloth can't do it alone." Thane nodded, though his expression was grim. "And how do you plan to do that?" Alya's mind raced, weighing her options. The rebel colonies and free traders didn't trust authority, and the mercenaries only cared about their pay. They needed something, someone to unite them. Something more than just a common enemy. They needed a symbol. "I'll meet with the leaders," Alya said, her voice steady. "Face to face. They don't trust each other, but they've seen what the Stellar Dawn can do. They've seen what the artifact can do. If I can convince them to stand together, we might have a chance." Thane's eyes widened slightly. "Captain, you're talking about using the artifact as leverage. You've seen what it can do to you. Are you sure that's wise?" Alya hesitated, the memory of the last battle flashing through her mind, the overwhelming surge of power, the way the artifact had taken hold of her, nearly tearing her apart. She wasn't sure, but she didn't see another option. "We don't have a choice," Alya said quietly. "The Vraath are regrouping, and now there's something else coming for us. If we don't unite now, we're finished." Thane's gaze lingered on her for a moment before he nodded. "Understood. I'll set up the meeting." The meeting was set on neutral ground, a hollowed-out asteroid on the fringes of the Vraath Empire, far from any major system. The asteroid was an old mining colony, long abandoned, its tunnels and chambers now serving as a temporary base for the rebel coalition. Alya stepped off He's Stellar Dawn and into the cold, metallic corridors of the asteroid. Mira walked beside her, her face lined with concern. Behind them, Thane and a small contingent of the ship's security forces followed, weapons ready but holstered. They didn't expect a fight here, not yet, but tensions were high, and Alya wasn't taking any chances. The makeshift meeting hall was a wide, open chamber carved into the heart of the asteroid, its walls lined with flickering hollow projectors and crude banners representing the various factions present. At the far end of the room stood Governor Ryloth, his sharp eyes watching as the delegates from the rebel colonies and free traders argued among themselves. Mercenaries in heavy armor stood scattered throughout the room, arms crossed, their expressions unreadable. As Alya approached, the bickering stopped. All eyes turned to her. "Captain Trent," Ryloth said, his voice carrying across the room. "We've been waiting for you." Alya stepped into the center of the room, her gaze sweeping across the faces of the assembled leaders. There was distrust in their eyes, suspicion. They were here because they had no other choice, but that didn't mean they trusted her. Not yet. "I'm not going to waste time with speeches," Alya began, her voice calm but firm. "You all know why we're here. The Vraath won't stop with Earth. They won't stop with your colonies. They won't stop until they control the entire galaxy. And if we don't stand together now, we'll fall one by one." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room, but Alya could see the doubt in their eyes. They had heard this before, from countless leaders and politicians. They had been promised unity, only to be betrayed by those who sought power for themselves. "I know you don't trust each other," Alya continued, her voice steady. "And I know you don't trust me, but this isn't about trust. This is about survival." One of the mercenary leaders, a grizzled man with a scar running down the side of his face, stepped forward. "And why should we follow you, Captain? What makes you any different from the rest of these politicians?" Alya met his gaze, her jaw tightening. She had anticipated this. They needed proof, something more than words. She took a step forward, her hand reaching into the pouch at her side. Slowly, she withdrew the artifact, its faint blue light pulsing softly in her palm. The room fell silent, all eyes fixed on the glowing disk. "This," Alya said, her voice quiet but commanding. "This is what makes me different." A collective gasp rippled through the room. They had heard the stories of the battle at Earth, of how the Stellar Dawn had driven back the Vraath fleet, but few had actually seen the artifact up close. "It's not just a relic," Alya continued, her eyes scanning the room. "It's a weapon, a tool, and it's the key to defeating the Vraath." The mercenary leader narrowed his eyes, clearly skeptical. "And what makes you think you can control it?" Alya's gaze hardened. "Because I've already used it, and it nearly killed me." She felt the weight of their stares, the tension thick in the air. They were waiting for her to falter, to show weakness. But she wouldn't. Not now. "I won't pretend to understand everything about the artifact," Alya said, her voice unwavering. "But I do know this. If we stand together, we have a chance to fight back. If we don't, we're finished. I can't promise you victory, but I can promise you this. If we don't act now, there won't be anyone left to fight." Silence filled the room. For a moment, Alya thought the coalition might collapse right then and there. But then, slowly, Governor Ryloth stepped forward. "The captain is right," Ryloth said, his voice steady. "We've been fighting alone for too long. If we don't unite now, we'll never have another chance." The murmur of agreement grew louder this time, the tension easing just slightly. The mercenary leader crossed his arms, but he didn't argue further. The others began to nod, reluctantly accepting the truth of Alya's words. "We'll stand with you, Captain," Ryloth said, offering his hand. Alya took it, sealing the fragile alliance. But even as the coalition solidified around her, Alya couldn't shake the feeling that something was still wrong. The artifact pulsed in her hand, its whispers growing louder. The alliance had been formed. The rebels were ready to fight. But the war hadn't truly begun yet. And something far darker was still on the horizon.